Hello race fans, it's Dr. Detroit here, the Doctor is in, bringing you the first episode in what is going to become a very cool weekly series. Welcome to Doc's Racing Notebook. Now I know that the loss of Wednesday Night Thunder is still being felt even to this day, but I have a replacement that I think you guys are going to love. Over the course of the next couple of weeks or so, I'm going to take you guys behind the scenes and kind of give you guys a little look into my racing notebook. Whether you're a sim racer like me, or you probably are not a sim racer but want to become one, or maybe you're one of those people that, has no intentions of becoming a sim racer, but would like to get a little more knowledge so you can be around some of your racing buddies. Well, that's what this series aims to do. And we're going to be doing a bunch of big things. I'm going to be talking a lot about how the suspension works, how downforce works, the different areas of the car, how you can make your own NASCAR Cup Series car in Gran Turismo 7, and we're also going to take a look at some of the different race cars as well and show you folks how to work them. But you know what? I think we should start at the very beginning and talk a little bit about the lingo that we use. Because you know what? Us sim racers and real racers use different words and things to kind of describe, different parts of the track, different parts of the car, and, other sorts of things. So that's why, for this first episode, I'm going to show you how to know your racing lingo. So, why don't we go ahead and start this off on the racetrack itself. And I'm going to show you a few of the different things and other things that go with this. So if you're ready, and you look ready, let's head over trackside, and I'll begin the lesson. So right now, we're here on the front stretch, or the front chute. This is the front portion of the racetrack where the start-finish line is usually found. The start-finish line is what you cross to start the race, and also what you cross to end the race. A lot of these start-finish lines are perfectly straight, and are usually white and black. But here at this particular track, we're actually here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, this one is yellow and black. In fact, different start-finish lines can be different colors depending on what's going on. Now the bottom portion of this track that they see me walking on right now, this is a part of the track that's called the apron of the track. The apron is the extra bit of track that drivers can run on to a point, but there's a few things that you gotta remember, especially when you're running on the apron. The apron of the track is an area that you shouldn't be racing on. That's because there's a lot of debris and junk and schmutz that end up going down there, including some pieces of rubber that are called marbles. As the race goes on and the tires begin to wear, little balls of rubber start to build up, and they end up on the top portions of the turns or sometimes going to the very bottom of the racetrack, but we'll get to those momentarily. The other thing too is that the apron of the track is also where the slower cars run if there's a problem. So keep an eye out for whenever you see the bottom portion of the racetrack. See the numbers behind me? These are called track markers, or they should also be called benchmarks. Each of these benchmarks here tell you how much more racing line that you have until you get into a corner. Most of the time, these are up to show when there is a sharp turn. And if I get out of frame here really quickly, you can see back there turn 1 of the Roval. You can also see NASCAR turn 1 back there. Most of the time when this is an oval configuration, you don't need those kind of numbers to know. But in some cases, some drivers actually want these to kind of show them where the top portion of the turn is. Now, oftentimes you will see these mostly on your driver's right, but sometimes they can also be driver's left, which on your screen it looks like I'm aiming my hand to the right side of the screen. The other thing too is that they oftentimes don't have singular numbers. They often count down how many yards you are away from that turn. So you might see something like, 300 yards, 250, 200, 150, etc., and so on. And these also help with some very good braking points too. So use these to your advantage. you'll find these types of benchmarks in other places, such as Road America, St. Croix B. We also see them at Watkins Glen International, and there's also a few other places too that we see them as well. Oh yeah, this portion over here is super important. Now this area here, if I can move the camera this way, these are called soft walls or safer barriers. Back in 2002, IndyCar was the first to develop the safer walls. As you can see, there's the original wall over there on the behind there. But what they did was this. These blocks here are foam blocks. And they space them out every so many yards, or every so many feet. And then right here is the other wall. When a driver slams into this really hard head on, yeah, it's still gonna hurt, but here's the good news though. They will race another day because these basically absorb the energy from the incident. So that means that you are not hitting concrete. Yeah, you're sort of still hitting concrete, but the walls give way a little bit, which is good news. Every single NASCAR track out there, with the exception of Eldora Speedway, which we don't run there anymore, has a form of the safer barriers. Now, on most road courses, you're not going to see stuff like this. You're going to see tire walls, which I think there's some tire walls over there on the back straightaway, but we'll get to those in a little bit. And believe me, I've hit these walls before, and it ain't pretty. But hey, at least here I am to race another day. Remember those tire walls that I mentioned? Well, here's some right here. These covered-looking blocks actually have old tires underneath here, and those tires are laid out sort of almost like onion rings in a way, and they create a little extra protection for the driver themselves. Yeah, it's still going to be a painful deal when, somebody hits those, but the good news is that they will dissipate the energy enough that the driver can easily get out of the car regardless of what they're actually, driving or whatnot. Now, the other problem, too, is that I've seen drivers, myself included, hit these things so hard that it actually tears these suckers apart. So that's when the race has to be red flagged for a little bit so they can get the tire walls fixed. You may have heard this term a few times, but you can see we're down here on what's called the rumble strip. Rumble strip, or also too, the curve. These rumble strips are put into place so that way the drivers don't try to cut the course too much. These rumble strips also have a very rough edge. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but if you look behind me, sort of like right behind, this red piece right here, there's actually a little lip. And that lip tells the driver that, hey, don't cut anywhere closer, otherwise you're going to get a penalty. Now, the interesting thing, too, is that every single racetrack has a different set of curbs. Some of them are a little bit easier to take, others can really mess you up, and in some cases, they also are very, very close to dirt mounds. So watch out when you go over these curbs. Next to it, however, are these very controversial curbs. Now, if you're an F1 fan, or you probably have watched like other divisions from the FIA that run in special places like Monza, or even Paul Ricard from France and everything, you've seen these, and these are called sausage curbs. Yeah, I know, furries. You got 5 seconds to laugh it out. Go ahead. Okay, that's enough. The sausage curbs here basically are the raised portions where it is extremely out of bounds to run over these. And if your car is low enough and you hit these just right, it's going to go way up into the air. In fact, I've actually seen a car over here at Charlotte Speedway flip on its side for cutting this course a little too close. Now, the other thing though is this. See where my hand is right now? This is where your tire should be when you go over these curbs. Now, here's something that's actually interesting. If you talk about curbs in the United Kingdom, they spell it a little bit differently. See, here in the United States, we spell curbs as C-U-R-B-S. Over there, they spell it as KERBS. So if you're going to be racing over there in the United Kingdom, or you may have a friend who is international, just know that this, along with a few other words that they use, are spelled differently, but say the same exact thing. And believe me, these curbs come in major handy, especially if you're going to shave a few tenths off your lap time. See all the blue cones right here that are blocking off this way of the racetrack? Well, there's a good reason behind it. These blue cones, sometimes replaced with barriers, help tell the drivers exactly where not to go. As you can see on this, the drivers have to go this way down the track if they're racing here at the Roval. However, this road right here can be used as what's called an access road, which is mainly for the safety vehicles, or if a car has a problem during the race and they can't get back to pit road, they can easily go into this access road area and they can take a back way back to the garage area. You oftentimes will see drivers use these access roads when they've either been out of gas or they have to get out of the way because they were involved in a crash. Or in some cases, you may have seen people use this road to get away from an accident should there be something bad way over there. Back here once again on the apron, and we're looking here at NASCAR Turn 1. However, on the Roval portion here, which by the way, I should have mentioned this before, Roval refers to a racetrack where there is a road course inside the oval portion of that particular track. A road course is a track with many left and right turns. It can be as little as maybe 5 to 6 turns, or it could even be as many as even 120 turns for all we know. But those are some of the bigger tracks. Heck, I don't even think Le Mans even has that many turns. Now the other thing too is that see how the bottom portion of this track goes upwards? Well, that's what we call the banking of the turns. Banking refers to how steep it is in the corners. Some turns can be banked very little, between maybe 9 degrees to 14 degrees. Here it's 24 degrees, and we've also seen tracks where it can be 33 degrees in banking. And to give you a better idea, I'm going to try and climb up the speedway here. So as you can see, as I get higher up on the racetrack, I'm on the higher portion of the banking. Now, it's a little bit tricky to keep my balance up here because of how much banking this place has. And if you're not going at 100 and some odd miles an hour, it's going to be very tricky to kind of keep yourself up here because, whoa! See what I mean? That's why it's always important that whenever you're racing at a banked track, keep speed up as you go through the banking portion of the speedway. Now, most road courses do have what are known as elevation changes, but it's a different story. Banking refers to the turns. The elevation changes are usually referred to where the speedway or the straightaways, go up and down. Either you have an uphill climb or a downhill slope. This next portion of the racetrack is something that you will see on some different road courses. You'll see it at places like Daytona, Le Mans, and even other places. This is what's known as the bus stop, or it can be referred to as the chicane. The chicane area is a way to slow down the drivers as they make their way through. And the chicane often works like this. It can either be a quick left, to a right, back to a left, or it can be different. This particular chicane that I'm walking through right now, this is very similar to Daytona's bus stop chicane. It's even known as the Le Mans chicane. This place also has quite a few areas where if you hop the curb and you end up going a little bit too far over, that's going to be considered a track advantage. And normally you just have to give up the time gained. But in NASCAR land, if you've been gaining any sort of time, you have to come to a full stop before you go back out on the track, which is probably one of the dumbest rules ever. Now we're back here at the front straightaway, and this is the beginning of pit road behind me. The pits, pit lane, pit road, where you take your car to come in for a pit stop, or to bring it back to the garage area so you can get some adjustments made on the car. This yellow and orange line that I'm actually staying on right now is what's called the commitment line. The commitment line is a line that you need to cross in order to make a legal pit stop. As you can see, there is a big square box right here. So what does that mean? Well, here's what happens. Here, let me go ahead and go out of frame, and let's pretend for a second that I'm coming to pit road. Now, if I'm coming to pit road under the yellow flag, I have to go over this line. So see, I just went over the line, which means I can go into pit road, service my car, and then get back out on the track. However, what happens if I want to fake out the competition? Then this is what I do. As I'm coming to pit road, I need to think fast before I hit that and go this way back up onto the main surface without touching that box or the line. Because here it is again. I'm going to go back over this. So I'm going to do this, but then also at the last second I'm told to stay out. Whoa! I come over here, and you're going to get penalized because you ran over the commitment line and you didn't come to pit road. That's a huge penalty. And under caution, you'll be sent to the tail end of the field. Under green flag conditions, well, it's a drive-through penalty, which is, never a good thing. And then over here by a pit road entrance, this is an area here that a lot of drivers have hit. Here, let's bring the camera a little closer so you guys can see. These barrels here help protect the edge of pit road. When a car comes into pit road, you best be on either side of these. You don't ever want to slam into these barrels. That's because on the other side, if we go back here, is the edge of pit wall. And believe me, it hurts if you hit that head on. So to help protect the drivers, if for some reason they can't, hit the brakes, or for some reason they get, shoved off or something, they're told to go into these things. Yes, it's going to damage the car, but the good news is that it will keep the driver a little bit safer. We have seen a couple of cars hit this, including a pace car or two. Every racetrack that we race at, with the exception of a few, have something like this at the entrance of their pit roads. The places that don't have them are Daytona and Talladega, and a few other tracks as well. But places like Martinsville, Bristol, even Auto Club Speedway, rest in peace, and many, many more tracks have these types of barrels. You can call these the sand barrels, or some of us in the industry call it the attenuator. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but make sure that you stay on the right side of the attenuator, and it will keep you fine. However, if you end up hitting these, good luck next race, I guess. And then, of course, when you come here to pit road, you gotta bring your car into something that's called a pit box. The pit box or pit stall is where the team can service the cars. They can change the tires, put fuel in it, add some wedge into it, and also do a few other adjustments. We'll talk about car adjustments down the road. But there's a few things to keep in mind, because, as you can see, our number 9 machine is perfectly here in the box, because this box is pretty big. But now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to show you a couple of things, and run this car forwards and backwards to give you an idea. So first things first, here's what it means when somebody hits shallow. Okay, so as you can see, I'm still in the pit box, but you can now see that here by the back end, I didn't give myself, a lot of space. And there's another pit box behind me. If there's another car pitting behind me, and I pit really shallow in the box, that could easily screw the other driver up. But now I have all this room here in the front to dump the clutch and head out. So, pitting shallow means that you stop short in the box, which sometimes is best to do at places like Dover, Bristol, and other sorts of short tracks. But now let me show you what happens if I pit deep in the box, or if I go over the line. So now I have pitted deep in the box, but I now have made one huge violation. My nose is now over the next pit stall, and if we move this forward a little bit, in fact, let's go ahead and do this. If I move the camera forward a little bit, you'll see here that now my nose is almost into the other pit box of the other driver. So, what happens here? If you go over the line, NASCAR will tell you to move this car back, or different divisions will tell you to move the car back. And so let me show you what has to happen. You have to throw the car in reverse, and then you can start pitting. Now this is what we mean by, pitting deep in the box. Here you gave yourself, a wide berth behind you. Because now what's going to happen is this. If you do this, let's go ahead and spawn the other car in and I'll show you something. Now this guy back here has plenty of space to get out of their pit box and get back on the track. But the other problem that you're going to have is that now if we move the camera back this way, now here you basically have to get around the car that's in front of you. So it's a good reason to dump the clutch and get back going again. And believe me, pit road is can be very tricky, especially when it comes to certain racetracks. Last but not least for track equipment is what's called the toolbox or the war wagon. The war wagon is what every single pit crew has. It's a big rolling toolbox that has everything that the team might need for the race itself. For example, let's say that something goes wrong with the car, like let's say a battery goes dead, or they got to add water to the radiator. Well, they have everything here. They have extra air guns to change the tires. They have a fire extinguisher in case there's a fire because of the fuel. They also have different fluids, motor oil. There's also like nuts, bolts, extra radios, batteries, backup things, whatever you might need. And so the pit crew stay down here, while the crew chief, car chief, and a few other personnel go up top. So for the magic of editing, we're now inside the war wagon, and as you can see, there are two laptops here. Usually what happens is that the crew chief, the car chief, and the race strategist usually sit up here and they pore over the notes that are being sent in through the computer that is on the car. They can figure out everything from gas mileage to tire mileage to all sorts of things. And you can see too that most of these pit boxes are covered. This way, everybody is protected from the elements, whether there be rain, big time heat, or in some cases, snow. Yeah, that's right. A couple of races have been snowed on before. Just ask Kurt Busch. Now that you know a bit about the track lingo, next up is going to be lingo about the race car itself. However, we gotta take ourselves a quick break. But when we come back, we'll take a closer look here at this particular car, and I'll show you all the different bits of lingo that go for race car. So stick around, everybody. We'll be right back after this word from your local station. You're watching Doc's Racing Notebook here on Electric Paradise Studios. Have you heard the big news? Colby's Movie Land has now integrated AI into the movie theater. It's a big win for me. But how does this affect you? Well, you only pay the flat rate, and you can come in here and watch any movie that you want to on the big screens. Just tell them at the front desk what movie you want to see, and I will pull it up especially for you. See any kind of movie that you want to, whether it be Mega Man 2, Dory the Netflix cut, or movies from the 1930s all the way up to today. And you don't have to pay the extra fees, because with Nicole AI integrated here in the theater, we cover the fees for you. Don't forget to grab your popcorn and your soda, and happy movie watching. Oh, my movie's about to start. See you next time, everybody.
Come see Nicole AI integrated into Colby's Movie Theater. We play the movies so you don't have to.
When it's time for you to travel, you need to make sure that you have your ticket with you, but also your luggage. Your luggage is extremely important because it has all of your personal belongings. But unfortunately, some airports decide to say screw the luggage, and they decide to mishandle it, unfortunately. But Bokuma has something that will help you to keep track of your personal belongings. The Bokuma baggage tag helps you keep track of your baggage for only $3 per tag. You buy the tag, you put it in your luggage before you check it in, and you can keep track of it via the app. And you'll know exactly where it is. Look at this! I used it, and now I have my luggage right here. That means I can go on to any airline that I want to with my baggage in hand. Never lose your baggage again, and travel at the Bokuma International Airport. We do the flying for you.
King Elias Acorn here for Squirrel Sound Studios, the only place here in Mobius that has all of your musical needs. No, we don't have records of me making noises. We have records of all sorts of your favorite rock artists, pop artists, and everything in between. Step into a ring of fire and walk the line with Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison. Can you go the distance? Can you go for speed? Well, we got a little cake right here to help you out. Go back and forth and tell me what's the word up with Cameo. I can see you want your MTV, and so does Dire Straits with this album Brotherhood in Arms. Or you might ask this one question that only comes once in a lifetime. Well, how did I get here? You never know what you're going to find here at Squirrel Sound Studios. Because here at Squirrel Sound Studios, we sell nothing but the best music. What's in your record player?
Welcome back, everybody, to Doc's Racing Notebook. Now that we know a bit more about track lingo, it's time that we take a look at the actual race car itself. There is a ton of lingo to remember here. Now, like I said before we went to break, every single car has a little different, how can I put this? A different term for different things on the car. So, just because something is a lingo here for this, NASCAR Cup Series car driven by Chase Elliott, does not mean that it's for every single car. But there are a few similarities that you guys will see. So, let's get down on our hands and knees and take a closer look at this beautiful car. Starting here with the front of the race car. This here is often called the front end, it can be called a snoot, it can even be called the snout of the car, or it could also be the front clip. Now, this car doesn't necessarily have a front clip, but this front portion has a few different things. You can barely see the front portion here, but this black area here is called the grill. No, it's not a grill for cooking burgers on. The grill is actually where the car gets airflow in the engine. The car needs to breathe just like you and me. But the thing is that if the airflow is restricted, it can make the engine run hotter, and pretty soon, bang, the thing could overheat. This black portion right here, this front area here, is called a splitter spoiler. The splitter spoiler is synonymous with a lot of different race cars because the splitter spoiler is basically part of the aero package that these cars have. And as you can see on this one, the splitter spoiler is sticking out way more than the nose itself. That usually means that this car has what we call high downforce setup, which means that the car can turn a little better, especially through the corners, but it's not very good speed-wise. However, these types of cars here, these next-gen cars from NASCAR, these cars are closer to what we run in a series called IMSA, but we'll talk more about IMSA down the road. And see those two circles right there in the front? Those are called brake ducts. No, I don't mean D-U-C-K, I mean D-U-C-T. That's right, duct. The brake ducts are what send cool air, or at least, air to the brakes. Because under heavy braking, especially here on the road courses, the brakes will get hot. And there's nothing worse than overheating brakes. Because if you overheat those brakes, there's a decent chance that those brakes could possibly burst out into flames. I've had a few times where the brakes had overheated on me, and it's never a pretty sight. Now this should be pretty easy for you guys to remember. This is what's called the wheel of the car, or the hub. Now every single car actually has a different type of hub to it. And usually they're secured by a singular lug nut, or in some cases 5 lug nuts. In the older style cars, such as the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts series, which used to be called the NASCAR Busch series, and the NASCAR Craftsman Truck series at the time of recording this, have the 5 lug nut setup. While most cars, such as these Cup Series cars, hypercars, GT cars, and many others, went with the singular lug nut. These rims, as you see here, these are not necessarily rims, because this is actually what's called a wheel hub. Along the side of the car is a bunch of different things. See the hose thing down there? And see this little, bit of like what almost looks like a harmonica? Well, those are actually the exhaust pipes. That's right. These cars get their noise from the engine, but the exhaust pipes come out this way. Now, back in the day, in the old style cars, you could put the exhaust pipes on either side of the car. However, NASCAR mandates that they either come out both sides of the car or on a singular side. Preferably, teams would like to have these exhaust pipes come out the right side of the car, in other words, the passenger side, because those things can get pretty hot, especially, over time. And see that little nub right there between those two things? That's what's called a jacking bolt. The jacking bolt is where the jackman puts the jack to raise the car up when it comes time for a pit stop. You'll oftentimes see these even on your own car. Sometimes it may not even be a bolt at all. Sometimes it's a little indentation in the chassis or the metal that shows you exactly where the jack goes. Because believe me, if you put the jack in the wrong spot, you're going to end up making some pretty big damage, and that's going to be one expensive repair bill. And now we come here to the back portion of the car, which is usually considered the rear bumper. It can also be called the rear end, the ass end of the car, or also too, just simply behind. This area here, the back bumper, is usually where you see a lot of different combinations compared to different people. The other thing too is that you oftentimes will see this thing behind me, which is called a spoiler. The spoiler, or there can also be a rear wing back there, helps generate what's called rear downforce. We'll talk more about front downforce and rear downforce in a much later video. But oftentimes on stock cars, you will see a spoiler like this. In other cars, you will see a rear wing. And oftentimes the way the rear wing is designed basically contributes to that particular downforce. And some cars have this little thing underneath here called a rear diffuser. The diffuser helps out with rear downforce as well. And the way that it's made often channels the air differently. That's the main thing about having a rear diffuser, is that the diffuser is an aero purpose. It bolts onto the bottom of the car, and from there, you basically have a different design. That way, it channels the air perfectly, and therefore, you can get some good rear downforce, and possibly even make this car a little bit more drivable. However, it kind of depends on what car it is, because some cars are good with a rear diffuser, others not so much. For this next portion of the video, I'm going to take you inside the cockpit of these cars. Now, every cockpit is different, compared to different cars, but some of them have very similar things that, are needed. And so, let's go ahead and take a look at the steering wheel here. We all know what a steering wheel is, right? But you guys probably have this question. What the heck is this thing right here? Well, there's actually two buttons here on the steering wheel. The one over here, which is a circle button, that is actually for the driver to talk to the team through radios in their helmets. But this thing right here is what's called a kill switch. The kill switch is very important. If the gas pedal decides to stick to the floor and you can't engage the brakes, all you have to do is just simply hit that button and it disconnects the motor. And it disuses the power to the engine, and you come to a full stop afterwards. See this thing right here? This is known as a shifter. The shifter here can be different things. It can be an H pattern, it can be sequential, it can even be a paddle shifter. But in this situation here, this car has a sequential, which all you have to do is simply push it forward to go up a gear, like from first to second to third to fourth and so on, or pull it backwards to you to decrease the gear, or basically drop a gear. In most cars, you're going to find these three pedals. The gas pedal is always on the right, that's the one that gets the car going. The brake pedal is the one that everybody should be using when you're going to come to a full stop. And then there's the clutch pedal over here. The clutch is what you engage to shift up. However, in most race cars these days, this clutch pedal is mainly used for pit stops, because the clutch is built into the steering wheel on most cars. Not this stock car, though. See these things right here? This is called a headrest. No, it's not a headrest that you basically go to sleep to, but you can see that the reason why it's very much padded is so that when a driver's going through all these different G-forces on the racetrack, this holds the helmet in place. Because here's the thing, the helmet and the head are basically right here, and they have to be held in this area, because you are going to experience a lot of G's out there on the track. So, the headrest is extremely important. And it can either be on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. It all depends on what kind of car that you're using. And of course, last but not least, this digital display here is also known as a readout, or sometimes your data panel. In many cases, in many cases, the data panel is located directly on the steering wheel depending on what kind of series you're in. In the NASCAR series, most digital readouts show you everything, from your tachometer to your fuel pressure to all sorts of things. Normally it doesn't tell you which gear you're in, but it can tell you if there's a problem with the car or if something's about to blow. Now that you know a good bit about the lingo between the car and the racetrack, now we can advance into the next topic. But unfortunately, though, we're out of time for this first episode. But don't panic, because believe me, there's going to be plenty more of these coming up that are going to show you and also teach you, and especially you out there, a bit more about how to race a race car, what the track is like, and also about different things with adjustments. And I think you guys are going to love this. So if you guys are ready to see those, or if you're eager to see them down the road, make sure you hit the like button, don't forget to comment down below, and also subscribe as well. So that way, VRC 101 can continue to make VR Chat 101. Arlo Fizzarelli here can continue to do the Traveling Nardo and the Traveling Nardo off-duty, and you guys can continue to see some cool content. And so now, I think I want to take this car out for a few more runs. Just because, well, I want to get a little bit more attuned to this. So, I'll see you all next time. And until then, take care, and I'll see you at the finish line.